Lesson 4, Question 1. In the probabilistic view, the typical exemplars or category members are recognized more quickly because they share more features with other category members. In a sense, the typical category member is closer to the center of the category. And a similar effect might be observed with the exceptional category members. A very atypical member of a category like bats as atypical mammals, or even as atypical birds if your category for bird is based on observable features is really an outlier. It really is the case that the bat is a lousy member of the mammal category. It looks like a bird, acts like a bird, and cannot see very well. A probabilistic categorization system would assume that bats will be misclassified and will present people with some difficulty. It is plausible that our own inability to classify them readily corresponds to the fact that bats are often feared. Perhaps we fear bats because they do not fit into a simple, basic category very easily. 아웃라이어 관측된 데이터의 분포에서 많이 벗어난 것, 로우지 형편없는, 플라우시블의 가능성이 있어 보이는, 그럴듯한. Lesson 4, Question 2. Central to the notion of brilliant leadership is the critical linkage between empathy and authenticity. While leaders may act on the premise that sensitivity to employee concerns is helpful in achieving organizational goals, brilliant leaders believe that empathy has value in its own right. In this regard, empathy is less a means to an end, profiting, but rather is consistent with Kant's notion of character, which underscores truthfulness as a core element of virtue. From a stakeholder perspective, particularly employees, brilliant leaders would be seen as behaving in ways that reveal a genuineness of motives, guided by the deontologically based philosophical guidepost. We should do our duty for no other reason than because it's the right thing to do. The brilliant leader's empathetic conduct is derived less from strategic or tactical interests than it is from one's personal sense of integrity. That, then, is a defining feature of authenticity. It frames empathy as values-driven rather than outcome-driven. Ontologically based 의무론에 근거한 tactical 전술적인. Lesson 4. Question. Language is socially constructed over time. Our cultural collectives agreed upon various abstract symbols and sounds to represent objects, people, places, and experiences. Conversely, basic emotions are biologically constructed over time. Evolution repeatedly crafted responses to important life situations which we later associated with symbols, words, and phrases. The presence of a unique emotion word in one culture does not imply the presence of unique circuitry or unique phenomenology for a special emotion found only in that culture. Similarly, the absence of a specific basic emotion word in one culture does not imply the absence of analogous basic emotion circuitry. Emotions and language are parallel processes that can inform and provide context about one another, but ultimately cannot guarantee the existence of one another. An example of this is in Robert Levy's pioneering work in Tahiti, where he found that Tahitians had no words for grief and sadness. Nevertheless, they experienced a sick, strange feeling when processing the loss of a loved one. Circuitry 노예의 신경회로 phenomenology 현상학, 주관적 감정 경험, 아날로고 유사한. Lesson 4. Question 4. There are some pretty big lifestyle changes you can choose to make if you want to help the planet. For instance, you could follow a plant-based diet, or you could pledge to go zero waste. If you're surrounded by people who are making these drastic changes, you might feel pressured into following suit. You might feel that if you don't make these changes, your efforts to save the planet are inadequate. Despite what you might hear, a plant-based diet or zero-waste living is not necessarily an all-or-nothing venture. Reducing your meat and dairy intake. A little is better than not doing so at all. Buying fruit, veg, and grains loose when you can is better than always buying them wrapped in plastic. The fact is, you don't have to follow a vegan or a zero-waste lifestyle perfectly to make a difference. Making little changes where you can and how you can is what truly counts. Pledge 공식적으로 약속하다.